So Rob Brooks and I've just been in the Arctic Spine.
Well, I can understand the confusion there, Rob. Yeah. You've done the winter spine race a couple of times. It seems like apples and oranges, but I might as well start off by asking, since we've brought it up, how do the two compare?
Yeah, this is different level. It's a massive step up from the winter spine. I mean, I knew it was going to be hard, but just the amount of challenges that you face and have to overcome that I've never ever sort of been experienced before. Yeah, it's hard.
Well, it seems to me from the outside that part of what's particularly difficult about this is just the amount of decisions you have to make all the time as you're going along. You've got all that kit there to help keep you safe, but you've got to manage all that as well.
Yeah, completely. I mean, every little decision that you make has an impact on your race, and it only takes a few little decisions, wrong decisions stacked up against each other, and quite quickly you can be in a really bad place. And it's really, really easy to do when you factor in the tiredness, the sleep deprivation, even though I didn't experience too much of that because I wasn't in the race long enough. But yeah, it all has an impact, definitely.
So, I mean, what were the conditions like last night? You were in a particularly remote area of the Kungsleden.
Yes.
What is a night out there like?
It was cold. So I've heard that it was -30 last night. So it's just a challenge to keep everything warm. So everything freezes. So your nose is warm, cold, so you put a buff on, and then you breathe into the buff, so the buff gets wet, and then the buff freezes, and then you've got ice cold on your nose instead of. And then sometimes if you turn the buff round, then you get the ice on your neck instead, which obviously isn't great either. And one of the big problems I had with things freezing was things like my gloves. So you sweat into your gloves, and then you take your gloves off, and within sort of like 5 minutes last night, they were frozen solid and couldn't get them back on again.
I mean, what were the trail conditions like as well? I know I've heard from other runners as well that there were some sections where you were literally having a break fresh trail up there.
Yeah, there was. So it was a combination of snowmobile tracks, which were nice in one way, except when the snowmobile tracks sort of come across a crossing and you didn't know which one to take because they both looked the same, going the same direction, especially when it was dark. Trail where there's just been someone maybe going through on skis or pulling a pulk, and fresh powdered snow, which was up to waist, sort of about knee deep in places.
Yeah, no, we were chatting a little bit before I started recording you. You took a bit of a tumble out there as well.
Yes, I did. So the highest point on the route, the Tajga Pass, it's 1,150 meters. So I had spent the night up there, and I was coming down. It's quite steep, and I'm not a natural skier, especially on cross-country skis, pulling a pulk. So I stacked it coming down there, fell face forward, straight down into the snow, and then the pulk trapped us. So the pulk is attached to your waist. So I'm lying face down in sort of probably waist deep snow with a pulk pinning us to the ground and my skis on my feet as well. So it took us about 45 minutes just to get up and get myself unattached from the pulk. And even when I did that, the pulk was trying to still go down the hill, so I had to try and pull that whilst carrying my skis and my poles at the same time. So that was a bit of a challenge. Yeah,
it sounds like it. I mean, how do you deal with something like that mentally? And I'll be honest here, and I was honest when you told me about this before. I think I'd have stayed under the pulk.
Yeah, I think the thing is, you just have to try and stay calm, because once you start panicking, then you start making more poor decisions. So just try and think it through logically and step through, okay, what's my options here? What's the best course of action? What can I do? I knew that there was other people in the race, but I didn't know if there was anyone behind us at that time. I didn't know who was still in the race. So I know I couldn't wait there and rely for someone to come in and help us. And even if I did, I would have just got too cold. So I just needed to try and think it through methodically and try and unbutton the carabiners in my waist whilst putting some tension on the poles to try and do that with recoiled hands.
Well, I mean, in terms of an adventure, there's a lot of points to focus on here, the toughness, the extremes of the conditions out there and everything else. But there must have been some highlights up there as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the first night, unfortunately, you didn't see the northern lights, but the sky was really, really clear, and just all of the stars. I've never seen so many stars in my life, and it was illuminating the outlines of the hills and the mountains around.
Wow.
And I was still feeling quite good at that point in time as well. It gave us a little bit of a boost, so that was amazing. And then the next morning, before I started to come down the hill, waking up, and it was just as dawn was breaking. So you go through the whole night in just a dark tunnel. You can't see anything at all. It did cloud over a little bit as well, and you just don't know what's around you. And then you wake up in the morning, as day breaks, and then just see these beautiful mountain landscapes. So that was really special as well.
You see any wildlife out there at all?
Just some reindeer, that was it. I've seen plenty of footprints of various different sizes in the snow, so I'm not sure what type of animals those belong to. Some of them are quite big, so I'm glad I didn't see any of those animals, whatever they were.
And I imagine, given how many decisions there are to make and everything else on this race, there must have been a lot to learn in it as well.
Massive, yeah. I mean, I came on the training course here with Phil 2 years ago, and it's a different level when you're doing it on your own and for so long as well. So when we came out here a couple of years ago, obviously Phil was there as our mentor, and we're just doing quite short days as well. So 6 or 7 hour days, we're only there, probably not even that, actually 4 or 5 hour days, whereas this was on the go for probably about 20 hours for first going. So again, things just stack up on each other. You don't have the chance to really address things the same way you could, where you have more rest time.
And what was it like sleeping out there? Because you must have caught a little bit of sleep out on the trail.
I think I got about 15 minutes on the first night and maybe half an hour last night.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just, even though my sleeping bag's rated down to -40, it was just absolutely freezing in the tent. And the ground underneath, because I was camping on snow, obviously that was really cold. Just I insulated, obviously I had my sleeping mat and the sleeping bag, but you're still just really, really cold inside the tent, and couldn't really get very comfortable.
Incredible. If you were speaking right now, and you are speaking right now to people who'll be thinking about taking on this challenge, what's the one piece of advice you'd give them? I
would say definitely have it as an objective, but make sure that you know what you're letting yourself in for before you enter, because it is brutal. It is the toughest thing I've ever done by far.
Well, Rob, you were one of the pioneers. Like this has been an experience for all of us, a learning experience for all of us. And thank you for being up there, and well done for doing what you did in those absolutely treacherous conditions.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Will.